yeah, she sits down and she's like, well, what happened there? And he's like, I don't know. You were a fried voice, half genuine person to my face. Then you said I had a little dick and that I was a pussy off camera. So I'm not the biggest fan of you. Welcome to another brand spanking new episode of another Bachelor podcast. My name's Dylan. I'm saddled up next to one real Nicholas Davis.
What's going on, everybody?
And then the guy over there, the Patrick in the white t-shirt with the barbed wire tattoos, Patrick Hickey.
Yeah, I'm here.
You doing okay?
Yeah.
Don't sound like you enjoyed the Women Tell All.
I watched it. I saw it.
Yep. Setting the bar pretty low there.
I'm fucking here, dude.
Okay. Nick, how are you?
I'm a little nervous, actually. You guys have been talking about how this was a 2-hour Women's Tell-All. I happened to watch this on Time Warner Spectrum On Demand, and there was only an hour, including commercials. So I'm pretty sure there's a lot I'm missing.
Well, let's
fill in the
on.
But Dylan, I know you enjoyed it, but can I tell you a little pet peeve? I know they got 2 hours to kill here, but why put us through past seasons of memories? They spent the first 5 minutes of like this thing where we had to see like weird moments from seasons 3 years ago. Like, they fucking wasted my time.
Some psychopath in the crowd that got a tattoo of lace on her face. I did like to see Corinne. She was throwing out some of her lines there, but most of all, it was throwaway stuff.
Yeah. But I thought the package that they played for this season was pretty grand. I looked back on the season fondly, and a part of that package was the feud between Marique and one bulbous mold Chelsea.
You've spoken about our at Another Bachelor podcast Instagram page. I posted that whole glam shaming thing on. I thought both those girls were comedic geniuses at the time doing this bit about glam shaming.
Nope.
But it turned out they were being very real.
This is a serious feud, and we have a genuine conversation about whether or not glam shaming is in fact a real thing. Jury's out. It is.
It was a hot button issue, Dylan. And one thing I did appreciate was that Brittany T jumped in a few times and said it's not a thing.
Arthur's sister?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, hold on. Let me jump in here. Now, this entire season, I have said Marique. I have been praying at her altar. I worshiping at her altar. She is so freaking hot. Okay. I hate her now. Because I didn't realize that she was serious about the glam shaming thing, but apparently she is very serious.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry to jump in.
Okay. So there's a couple things here. One is she dropped the line that she's a model. I don't think that's what it said that was her occupation. I think it said she was a fucking cook in a restaurant tour.
Business owner as the restaurant
tour. But now she's saying, I'm a model, and we go through a lot of stuff, and glam shaming is a thing.
She has fluid professions.
So I really, really hated that. And then she took herself very seriously.
Well, Pat, I don't know why you would hate that, because you have your hands in a lot of different pots, right? You're an Uber driver. You also install pools.
I am a lot of things, but one thing I am not, Dylan, is a victim. And neither is this dumb bitch. This was the stupidest thing. She is so friggin' hot, and she's probably been hot since she was, forever. And by the way, guys are probably standing in line to eat her poop. Fuck you. Don't give me any lines about you being a fucking victim. You're not a fucking victim. Shut the fuck up.
Well, I did feel bad for Marique, because I feel like she hasn't talked much this entire season. And she attempts to talk tonight and is just silenced by so many different girls who are allowed to speak their piece on this issue. CH, Chris Harrison, asks everybody to raise their hands. Is this a real thing? And the majority of the dais does raise their hand. So let's all be careful not to glam shame in the future.
You were glam shaming all season. If it's a thing, you were leading the charge, buddy. You talked about how much makeup she had caked on every single episode.
Well, I will stop because I didn't know that this was a real issue.
And you're a pussy, and you give in to societal pressures of
you're right.
PCness.
I hate how much makeup she has on. I don't know why Pat thinks all these people would eat her poop. Did you say?
Yeah, it's a thing.
Anyways, let's move on. Tia and Becca go at each other. And I love Tia. I hate Tia, but I love that she gives the quintessential bullshit apology. She the apology where you apologize because someone reacted to what you did. Like, I'm sorry you got upset when I hit you.
I'm sorry you're such an insensitive little girl, and showing the lack of maturity I was referencing is essentially what she said.
Now, this argument started, I was very confused by this. This argument started out between Terry and Tia, yet at some point they focused their attention on Crazy Crystal for some reason.
Well, Family Man, a lover of horror, says that we've barely touched the iceberg, and then he moves on to Crystal, who joins him on the couch, and he introduces her as the beautiful and charismatic Crystal. That is an adjective I disagree with.
Let me just say something. So when she got on the hot seat with Chris Harrison, they replayed her entrance with Ari. Now, in my memory, because I'll go back there, when I saw her come out of the limo, I was like, wow, she's cool, even though she did that chakra thing.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was ridiculous.
Absolutely. Looking back now, right out of the gate, she was cuckoo bones. He should have sent her packing on that first night.
I like that term, cuckoo bones.
Thank you.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little loco. In that package, Ari's brother says that he loves his brother and looks up to him because he achieves any goal that he sets his mind to. Not true. Terrible racer, now in real estate, so maybe find new heroes and role models. But
you don't know what his goals were in those respective professions. Maybe he never thought of saying, I want to win a race.
His goal was to not win races.
Be in a race.
Yeah.
I would love to have the goal of being in the Indy 500, and I bet I won't achieve it.
Drive a car.
Yeah.
He got there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you guys are right. I should bite my tongue.
It's a lesson on setting the bar low.
Yeah. I do want to say that, did we see Crystal go off on Ari the way that she did in that package?
Oh, like that was extra footage, you're saying?
Yeah.
They definitely did not show all of it, but the girls referenced some of the words she called him, and
I just wish we didn't have bleeps. Does she call him a little cock? Like, what does she say?
There was something in reference to the penis.
I just think she said pussy, because she said, I can get real men.
Right.
So I think what preceded that is, I'm fighting over this little pussy.
Yeah.
Very interesting. She was taking a lot of heat. One of the best lines of the night was from Terry, our 22-year-old little sprite, where she mentioned arguing with Crazy Crystal, and she said one of her main issues is she needs to do more work on her conflict resolutions.
Right. Listen, I love Becca. She's one of the most emotionally mature individuals on that stage, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Caroline goes in on her as well. Caroline's got a lot of beef with a lot of people, but she says something that was rather confusing. She says that she believed everything that Crystal said, but not the way she said it.
She believed in everything Crystal said. So I think what she was saying...
Yeah, break this down for me.
I think that Crystal gave a lot of platitudes, how you have to be open, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
All of it made a lot of sense if you actually think about what she's saying.
Got
but
it.
Coming from this sociopath, they held no water weight, and you still felt Crystal was a liar.
Oh, yeah. Like if Hannibal Lecter was giving you a career advice.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a terrible analogy, maybe not.
No, man. If he says, hey, they're hiring down at Target, it's true, and it's probably some solid advice. But then he goes and eats people.
He eats people.
Yeah. So, hey. All right. So one thing about Caroline, which I thought was a pretty gal, and I was happy to have her on the show. She left way too early, but now that I'm hearing her on this show, maybe she's a little too bitchy for my taste.
Bitchy, and also not okay with the word cunt. She was very, very I don't get that. Like, don't give so much power to that word. It's not that big of a deal.
100% agree with you. She went at Crazy Crystal, and she starts saying like, "Oh, you were like basically." You were like horrible to all the girls in the house. You were talking behind their backs. And then Crazy Crystal brought up a good point. She's like, I saw you in the moments. You were doing a full-on imitation of me, making fun of me. And then her response was something like,
I had a moment of weakness.
I had a moment of weakness.
Which is fair, because Crystal was a psycho and said all these horrible things about everyone constantly. And Caroline had one moment that was fucking hilarious, and she nailed the Crystal impression. So
it sucks when you want to jump in and argue for these people, because I want to be like, Caroline, you did that because despite your best efforts of trying to befriend her, then she still acted like a bitch. So then you just retaliated, which is okay when someone treats you shitty. Like,
equal and opposite reactions. You know who else goes a little cuckoo on Crystal's old BB? She says that she is not in control of her emotions, which I think is a prime example of the pot calling the kettle black.
It's very, very, very true. Bibiana, I saw have numerous panic attacks on Bachelor Winter Games. She should not be coaching anyone.
In summation, all the girls want is an apology from Crystal, an apology for calling the girls beneath her, saying that she was better than them, calling them cunts. But all she can really say is that it looked bad on TV. She doesn't apologize at all.
At one point, she says she stumbled, which I think may be her way of admitting a mistake.
She stumbled and
way
she
too
fell.
metaphorically.
Yeah. Let's be concrete about that. Just say sorry. Well, let's move on to the voice conversation. I can't remember who brings it up.
Olivia, the black girl that wasn't on the show.
Well, thank you very much for that, Olivia. It was a wonderful segue into the most perplexing thing about Crystal's character. She had a different voice. Pat, you were rather frustrated with it.
I was. With the fried voice. And I said that what it comes from is a very traumatic childhood.
Yeah.
That is exactly where it came from.
No, don't want to shit on your point, but we finally get an answer as to why she talks like that.
Oh, that's right. She cleared it up.
She lost her voice for a month and a half. Even Chris Harrison is like, we're on the show for 6 weeks.
And they never usually want to reference how short of time this is. They always kind of keep it very vague, so it seems longer. But he was like, no, bitch.
They had that wonderful shot of everyone rolling their eyes in the audience. It was nice.
And then Chris opens the floor to her to give one final statement, and she pulls out this canned thing that she had in the bag to bring everybody back on her side. She clearly had this story about the show being the catalyst that got her brother Jordan off the streets, and I thought it was transparent what she was trying to do, but it seemed to not
killed.
It killed in the room. Yeah. Everybody bought it in the audience.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think the dais, they were kind of like, meh.
Yes, I agree. The other ladies, they weren't having it. The crowd had an eruption of cheer, but Becca, they showed her face, Terry.
All right, if I was her PR person, I like the energy of this, okay? But the execution was very poor. All right, we got to build the story a little bit more here. I think she'd worked this out in her head and just with 3 beats.
Well, we kind of have the story already, right? A broken childhood, grew up in a bowling alley. She's a wreck. Her voice is fried because of it. And he has a leathery skin, and he was living in Venice Beach for ages.
I think what Patrick is saying, be a little bit more subtle and massage it through this entire interrogation. Maybe drop, I came into the place in a bad way because, my brother.
Ooh, I like that.
And then towards the end, you can say how it had a happy ending.
Is that what you were saying? Because I don't think that's what you were saying.
No, more organic. It kind of came out of nowhere, and it sounded like it was canned, as Nick said. Now, at Pat's PR, if she had hired me, one of the things one piece of advice I'd offer is fall on the sword. Because people always love someone that owns their own shit.
Right.
Which she refused to do.
Yeah.
Which classic sociopath move there. Does not admit any guilt for her actions.
Yeah.
Instead, she does this story of her brother, showing up now after he'd seen her on TV being a horrible person. And now he's doing great.
Yep. And Chris Harrison says, well, that's the best news we've gotten out of all this.
To Patrick's point about falling on a sword, there have been thousands and thousands of armies throughout histories, but we all remember the samurai.
Yeah. What was it called? Kari?
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's right. That's when you fall on the sword because you basically the shame.
And you guys, this isn't a history podcast, but they didn't fall on their swords. They fell on their knees and unsheathed their katanas and jammed them into their sternum.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Haven't you seen The Last Samurai featuring Tom Cruise and Asians? I'm going to jump into CN. She sits down and Chris immediately tries to pry the emotion out of her, and it's just not working because she's just not that emotional about this situation. She just has come to peace with the fact that it wasn't going to work with Ari on account of he's insecure and going nowhere in life.
My main issue with what happened here is, and I hate this, she kind of played the race card.
No, she didn't.
Bit.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? She said people like her don't get fairy tales.
No, you know what? She said that in the show, and
I felt like when she was watching it and she said that, she almost rolled her eyes at it. Like she didn't love that came up.
Yeah, and Chris Harrison is trying to bait her into talking about that.
Wait, no, she offered up. She said, my parents didn't stick together.
Because shitface Harrison says, CN, when you were on the show, you said, you don't see a lot of fairy tale endings for girls like you. What'd you mean by that? You know exactly what she means by that. Just like you know exactly what your whores mean when they say, can I have the donation, please?
I just don't like people mentioning it's because their parents split up. I think everyone in this fucking room, their parents went two separate ways. Am I right?
Well,
I'm okay. Look how great I turned out.
Oh. I hate this discussion that CN has to temper her accomplishments for the guys that she's dating.
Yeah.
Like, what was that laugh?
I agree with you.
It's insane. Like, so what are you going to do about these guys that are scared of you? I don't know.
Find someone better?
Find someone who's not afraid of the fact that I went to Yale and a couple countries?
What brought this on, or at least kind of fueled this, was they played that clip of Ari being like, I barely graduated from high school. She went to Yale. And I think that clip in itself may have, when Cien saw that watching the season in real time, I think that may have clicked. Like, I am way too good for this guy. And that's why she was so emotionless during this thing, because she knew she dodged a bullet.
Can I say this, though? I always love the job titles. I would say as a parent, I'd be a little disappointed if I paid for fucking Yale and my daughter, her job title was commercial real estate manager.
Yeah, you can do a little bit better than that, Cien. But let's move on to Becca/Terry.
I agree with you, Dill. Those earrings were ridiculous.
Pat, I simply never said that, so I don't know what there's to agree with.
Oh, maybe that's in my own head. They were ridiculous, though.
Yeah. Anyway, she sits...
And her teeth are still green.
She's one of my favorite contestants on this show. She is not without her faults, but I loved when they were playing her a little package when she tells Ari that the reason that he likes her so much is because she doesn't need him. I was like, you go, girl. You go, girl.
That was the whole time you had this, all season you've had this narrative how Ari's the most insecure bachelor of all time, and that is the line to say to him to just get him eating out of your hand.
Absolutely.
As DeMario said last episode, she was his daddy.
Do you want to hear what was going on in Ari's brain when she asked him that question?
I would love to.
Those are rats on a fucking treadmill in that moron's head trying to move his fucking brain to a thought.
Thank you so much for clarifying, because I had zero fucking clue what that sound effect was.
It reminded me of back in Minneapolis on the hip-hop station. They had a segment called Secret Sound, and you'd win a lot of money. One time I knew it was a pinball machine, and I called in for weeks as the escalating prize package, and I never got through, and it turned out to be it. I was guessing that whole time woodpecker. I thought it was a woodpecker.
Now, I was thinking it was like kind of like a rickety roller coaster.
Oh, it's fucking his dumb gears in his head.
No, you told us. You told us that.
Stare at him when someone asks him a question that a 4-year-old could answer and stare into his eyes and watch the gears turn.
Well, let's move on, because she says that, and this is when I say she's not without her faults, she says that Ari was projecting his insecurities onto her about the whole age thing. Now, Ari is the most insecure bachelor we've ever had, one of the most insecure people I've ever seen on television, period. But I don't think that he was projecting his insecurities on her about this thing in particular. I think that he was painfully aware of the optics of this, and that's why he sent her home. I don't think he was insecure about it. I just think he was like, America thinks I'm a scumbag right now. I got to get rid of this girl.
He was talking to Pat's PR.
Pat's PR. But the question would be, Dylan, then why keep her around for so long? Send her home on the first, the second episode. He knew she was young. He should have asked her and said, I got to get rid of you.
Well, I don't know that he knew she was that young because, the girls that he's going to end up with are 2-3 years older than her. So
I believe she brought that up. Yeah, you're probably right. I take that back.
I sorry. Tia. I loved her at the beginning, but she slowly started just slipping into just a gross person.
I agree. Can I tell you what I thought was gross about her? Can I tell you? Okay. Big pet peeve of mine.
Uh-oh.
All right. I can't see Sandra Bullock movies anymore because her and Tia share the same thing. Whenever Sandra Bullock does an interview like on a late night show, her hair, she has to fold back her hair every 20 seconds.
Okay.
It's no. It's the weirdest thing. But Tia did that. She sat like, hey, sweetie, get your hair pulled back, put it in a ponytail.
Yeah.
Quit moving the hair out of your fucking eyes.
She does that in all of her movies too. When she was spinning around in Gravity, she kept fiddling with her hair. It took me out of the film.
That's why I left. I walked out.
But Tia says, Becca and her kind of go at each other the entire episode. But Tia said that she was just so horrified that Becca would ask the girls if they had anyone that was at home that they could fall back on. Tia, shut the fuck up. Like, you're so in love and so invested in this process that you would be so appalled and worried about Ari's heart because she said that. It's awful. I hate when people buy into this bullshit process.
And the crazy thing is that most of Bachelor Nation is out there. They must not be listening to our podcast, but they're rooting for and thinking Tia is going to be the next Bachelorette. We, of course, broke the news that it's going to be Christina the Russian. Mm-hmm. Patrick doing a little digging.
Yep.
But people are convinced we're going to see 3 more months of Tia.
She was putting it out there. Definitely, I thought her performance was. She should have pulled back a little bit and been a little bit nicer,
less combative.
She's gone from the apex of the mountain down to the bunny slopes for me. Let's talk about what
I still like Tia. She got caught in the mudslinging, but I think she's still cool. We're definitely going to see her in Bachelor in Paradise because of her Raven connection, and Raven is just entrenched in this world.
My mind is going to fucking explode if we ever see those two on the same television show. But she's with
Adam Gosh.
Adam, yeah. God, what a stunner he is. Anyways, we got to get into this missing person story. She went to a marijuana farm. And then what happened?
So after Terry got off the show, she went back home, decided to get in a fucking van, drive up north just for fun.
Yep.
Just a little funsies.
Do some camping for a couple weeks. She forgot her phone.
Well, she didn't have service up there.
That's right. She didn't have service. And then, meanwhile, after her mother doesn't hear from her for 3 days, actually files a police report as a missing person.
Now, listen, I'm not a parent, so I don't know what that's like, filing a missing person. Who knows? I could be stirred into a panic to do that if my child was missing for 3 days. I have to say, to all you children out there, to everyone with a mom and a dad, let's be responsible about this, okay? Your parents go through a lot of turmoil when they can't get a hold of you and they don't know where you are, okay? Let your parents know where you are, okay? Especially if you're a 23-year-old woman still living at Mama Martinez's house. The person I loathe most in life is that schmuck from Into the Wild who cut his ID in half, crashed his car, and left his family, and never talked to them ever again. He got a fitting punishment. 8 potato sprouts whose lines were going the wrong way and died of some terrible bowel movement syndrome alone in the Alaskan wilderness.
And yet, much like Tanya Harding, lauded in this book as some type of pioneer hero who goes out and face the wilderness by himself. But instead, it was a selfish act.
Oh, disgusting.
To put your family through
Gentlemen,
that.
I don't want to pile on here, but before he ate those berries and shit himself to death, he killed a moose.
Right, killed a moose.
And then did not prepare the meat properly so that maggots ate it to death.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I loved seeing Emil's portrayal of this scumbag. just wither away and
Once
shit
again,
himself and
I don't
die.
think it's appropriate for us to keep going in on this guy, but he was working at McDonald's and was not wearing shoes on his shift, and then also quit the job without alerting his manager. Oh, despicable.
Yeah, let's stop talking about this and get back to the episode.
I also loved when he won that race on the mountain at the end.
What?
You know what? I'm actually confusing Emil Hirsch's role in Speed Racer.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Got it. What a colorful film. They call Mama Martinez and get her on speakerphone, which was bizarre, and the audience starts clapping, which is crazy. And they tell her that Becca's going to be on Paradise, which is her mom's worst nightmare.
I'm excited we're going to see Terry, and even more excited we're going to get to hear the theme song.
Can I tell you
Pat.
something?
Mm-hmm.
Me and my darling fiance Cece were listening to that song not all weekend, but we played it a couple times this week. That fucking song is incredible.
That warms my heart.
Oh, it's so good. Speaking of music, let's move on to Tia, who is introduced as a small town girl living in a lonely world. She caught the midnight train, whatever. The rest of the Journey lyrics continue, and she comes down to talk to Chris Harrison. He says that your journey was one of the most gut-wrenching and painful things I've ever seen on this show. Roll the tape. In this package, her and Ari bond over the fact that they are, quote, nerds. Okay? This drives me crazy. Portlandia already covered this in a very, very sad and poignant sketch about what a real nerd looks like. They don't fucking look like Tia and Ari, okay? Nerds are not beautiful people who are so stupid that they go onto reality television show.
Nerds don't have legs like Beyonce.
It's just, it drives me crazy when people think that because they're fans of Stranger Things that they're nerds. Okay, look, Pat, I don't pull clips that often, but I've got a clip here. This is what real nerds sound like.
Oh, you want me to play a clip?
Yeah, please play a clip.
A lot of weird no-hidon stuff.
There's
that
weird no-hidon stuff,
That
yeah.
might be a separate podcast
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that stuff's really weird.
I got
actually.
weird theories.
Odium's influence has just pervaded everything with the Thalen passions. How awesome was
Yeah.
that? That's an odium
It's an
religion.
odious
and it
religion,
was-
yeah.
I was gonna say that's probably the religion that they brought over from the Tranquillin Halls.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true.
like, it's that old,
that's
probably.
true. Oh man.
Now those are nerds. That is from the Shardcast, and they are recapping Brandon Sanderson's third installment of the Stormlight Archive, Oathbringer, which I just finished. Now, listen, those people are nerds. Listen to their voice. Listen to what they're talking about. I can assure you that they do not look like Tia, and they do not look like Ari.
It sounded like they were speaking Klingon.
You guys should really read the books. I mean, they're
Absolutely
they're
not.
I
really,
should really just read, I guess.
They're really, really good books. Anyways, there's nothing to say here about this person. She's, quote, found her worth, and she's open to another chance of falling in love, as is everyone, because it's a biological impulse. You have to find a partner in this life, or your lineage is not continued. Can we move on?
Please.
Ari in the hot seat. Let's bring him down, everybody.
People applaud. They don't hate him like they did Juan Pablo. That's a good thing.
He walks out and he, like me, is like, "Oh, I've never seen you before. I forgot about you." I don't know. What do you guys want to talk about? Do the girls like try and corner him, but it doesn't really work because there are so many vague and rehearsed answers to all of these questions. Jacqueline was super sweet and nice about kind of getting him off the hook for saying that he was intimidated by the PhD. I don't know.
A lot of softballs. Actually, there were only two noteworthy moments here. The first was Carolyn, again, not very prominent on the actual show yet. She's made some waves, maybe a play for Bachelor in Paradise. I definitely would love to see her there. At some point, she lashes out and says, "I know what you did."
Yeah, she says, "I know what you did, and I don't know how you could do that."
They played that in the package for the last 3 weeks. By the way, I can't wait to find out what the fuck he did. And then there was a power move here, which I actually hate, is he goes, and, well, yes, this will play out over the next couple of weeks. And she says, I don't need to know your answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just needed to say that. He nails all of these. He's just like, yeah.
His biggest defense is that he's on a show where he's supposed to date 30 women, and this happens. This is actually the 22nd time a similar situation has happened. So there's a blueprint for what he's doing.
And also, like, Becca dives back into him. She's like, I wish you just could have been more measured and given this a chance. Becca, he's almost 4 decades old. You were 20. Like, it could never happen. Just move on.
She's gonna make a guy really miserable someday. I want to say with our Bachelor here, one thing he did was, again, I hate when people refer to themselves in third person with their name. Never mind their title. He says, "Look, this is what the Bachelor does." Okay.
Yeah.
The second moment that was noteworthy on this fucking thing was when Crazy Crystal insisted on talking to Ari.
Cuckoo Bones Crystal comes down to the couch, and Ari wipes the floor with her.
The audience, though, was in the wave was behind him, so it was
totally.
really easy for him. Like, he just had to have a mediocre
But Ari
line.
is kind of a deplorable human being. Like, there's nothing that great about Ari, so you have to be a real scumbag for the audience to get behind the
he
person
was less
who you're.
of a piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly. Lesser of two evils. Real Sophie's choice. So yeah, she sits down and she's like, "Well, what happened there?" And he's like, I don't know. You were a fried voice, half genuine person to my face. Then you said I had a little dick and that I was a pussy off camera. So I'm not the biggest fan of you."
And actually, I think if I would have known what you were doing, I would have sent you home sooner.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, "You were dangling a carrot in front of me and then like ripping it away and going and talking to other girls." And he's like, "It's called The Bachelor."
Ari seemed like quite the dolt for most of this season, but this last week is the Ari I wanted to see, and I think what ABC thought they were going to see. He was throwing shade. He had some snippy responses. He even had this awesome tweet before Women's Tell All. He was like, "Tonight we see Bachelor in Paradise auditions." I mean, the Women Tell All.
That's great. That's that's stinging.
And accurate.
We got to move on to the moment we've all been waiting for, as Chris Harrison says, the blooper package.
I do love these.
Nothing to say about this.
Not me. I got nothing. Let's move on.
And now in a show filled with excruciatingly awkward scenarios, we are joined by the cast of Universal Pictures' new film, Blockers.
That was so random. They've done things like this before, but to insert something from left fucking field.
There's a tight shot of John Cena, and Chris Harrison's like, "Why is John Cena sitting next to me?" It's just, it's so bad.
They so want John Cena to be the next Rock, and it ain't gonna happen. This guy has zero charisma. I think he's a sociopath.
You know, he's not a sociopath, and I'm not a big wrestling fan, and nor do I like jorts, which he wears constantly. He is one of the most active members of the Make-A-Wish Foundation and does a ton of charity work for a lot of kids. So let's back off John Cena.
Well, I wish he would stop trying to act. Make that come true for me. How about that, John?
Okay. I just want to say, somebody from a fucking integrated marketing team from somewhere decides, let's do a blocked package of this season's greatest blocks.
Oh boy.
Let's not offend this person, because maybe they could help us get John Cena on this program. Do you think he really watches the show?
Do you want John Cena to come in here, have Pat call him a sociopath? What do you think's going to happen?
Pat's behind glass. I would like to see how it plays out.
John Cena could headbutt that glass, break it, jump through.
I did say I wanted him to stop acting, but in Trainwreck, when he's banging Amy Schumer, but he's only talking about protein powders and lifting weights, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Someone else wrote that. It's not like he came up with that.
Mildly funny. That's the end of this episode.
Thank God.
Thank God. Because I hadn't heard what Ari tweeted, but it's perfect. This is an audition for Bachelor in Paradise. And wasn't that great, you know? Overall, wasn't that great? Before we go, we need to hear a final word from our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by Trevor's Taxes and Tax Returns. Hey, what's happening? I'm Trevor, but my friends and family call me Trev.
less my father, who doesn't really quote-unquote acknowledge me much. Hey, did you know tax season is only 11 months away? That does not leave you a ton of time to get everything in order. But don't freak, okay? I've got your back. Why am I fit to handle sensitive things like taxes and tax returns? Let me tell you something. I'm what's known as a CPA, which is short for a really good accountant. But what's my background? How did I become a really good accountant? Simple, easy answer. You see, in 92, my pop, who does not call me Trev, was one of the few miners left in Los Angeles. Our family traveled westward here in 1849 in the sweeping wake of the gold rush. We were led here by my great-grandfather, Mutt Hatteras, who had brilliant business acumen and knew that, quote-unquote, while these other mutts are rummaging around in the frickin' muck, we can go ahead and mine all the other stuff. Quote, there's got to be tons of other stuff. And so he did, and that went great. Up until 92, that is. Turned out, the greater Los Angeles area had no need for miners anymore. They were too focused on movies and songs and rap music. And that left my father out of a job and at the house quite a bit. It was great to spend time with him, even though we didn't have a lot of quote-unquote eye contact. And anyways, my father isn't one to take a handout, and due to a resume chock full of mining, my father really didn't have anywhere else to turn except Pennsylvania, and he hates Pennsylvania. So trafficking in methamphetamines literally fell into his lap when a meth head fell through the ceiling of our double-wide trailer. And on that fateful day, that tweaker made my father a fair trade. And in return for hiding him and waiving the compensation for the damages, he would force my father to deal drugs. Well, a handshake's a handshake, and before you could say 911, my father's a kingpin, my father became a kingpin. Times were good, but then times weren't. And that's why my father looked me in the eye for the first time ever and asked nicely for me to learn how to launder money. So come on down to Trevor's Taxes and Tax Returns on the corner of Hazeltine and the Marlboro School for Young Women. And come quick, because before you know it, it'll be tax season. No questions asked.
That's the end of the episode. We got to get out of here. It's too hot. I'm tired. If you're listening to this, hop down one more episode and listen to our Bachelor Winter Games Extravaganza recap, which is a great episode.
Don't bother, it sucked.
Okay. Follow us on Instagram, on the internet at...
You threw me off because you said at. Another Bachelor podcast.
And where's the Facebook on the internet?
Facebook.com.
Yeah, and jump into the iTunes ratings and reviews and leave 5 stars. Don't leave any other number of stars because it makes Patrick very upset. I'm Dylan saying goodbye. Nick, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Pat, say goodbye.
Bye.